There's been some truly awful comic book movies, and there have been some truly awful comic book movie scenes. But there is one to me that easily stands head and shoulders above the rest as the very worst of the worst. Hands down the worst comic book movie scene ever put to film. It's not only immersion breaking, woefully stupid and out of place, pandering in all the worst ways, but it's downright immoral and disrespectful to a whole host of actors from yesteryear whose memories did not need to be put through a computer.
What the hell is even that?
I don't actually think The Flash was that bad. Controversies aside, James Gunn and Stephen King and Tom Cruise endorsements aside, I thought the actual movie was fine. I enjoyed the double Barry hijinks, and the relationship with his mother rooted the film in a decent enough emotional arc. It wasn't groundbreaking by any means, and there's a ton of better DC films out there, but considering the mauling it got pre and post release, I think it was alright. I'm also a big fan of Michael Keaton's Batman, and I actually got a kick out of seeing him again. He had a decent amount of screen time, a bearing on the plot, he kicked arse in a way we'd never seen before, seriously amped up from his 90s days with an Arkham twist. Again, nothing out of this world, no pun intended, but Keaton was having fun and he didn't phone it in.
If fighting crime would bring my parents back, you actually did it.
The scene where he points out that Barry did the one thing he would have wished he could always do in saving his parents, that alone was worth it for me on a script level. But the finale is where it all falls apart. Many people have compared the finale to a video game, and it's not hard to see why. The barren desert locale is rendered so flat and stale with really no bearing on anything in regards to a tactile physical location. When you see the Flash running around saying he's gonna emperor some guys, whilst Tim Burton's Batman fires rockets at Zack Snyder's Zod, all I can think of is this is what the kids do on Fortnite with all those skins. It slaps.
This place straight beeves. Beeves?
As if it wasn't bad enough, the crux of the finale hinges on both Flashes going into the Speed Force, depicted in the film with this whack, ugly CGI conceit known as the Chrono Bowl. And it's here where we're shown different universes crashing together. It's supposed to raise the stakes, but the way it's shown to us through these multicoloured spheres is nothing short of ugly. It aims for trippy, but ends up looking like a pile of CGI sludge. And I mean no disrespect to the post houses and CGI artists that worked on this stuff, because the problem with it is all in the creative direction and what the story has decided to do. There's really no amount of talent that could make this look good.
What the hell is even that?
It's here we get the worst comic book movie cameos of all time. George Reeves' Superman and Adam West's Batman, two of the earliest iterations of the characters, rendered here as weird, wax figures suspended in time. There's a good case online that some of this stuff is done using AI, because if you look, Batman doesn't appear to have ears in some places. It's all very weird and sloppy either way. We're then taken to the Earth that kickstarted the superhero movie, the world of Christopher Reeve's Superman, and he's joined by Helen Slater's Supergirl for the first time ever on screen. The common denominator between all of these cameos, aside from Helen Slater, is that these actors have been long gone. They have passed on and are no longer with us, and it brings up that ongoing debate sparked by things like Rogue One and Alien Romulus. Is it unethical to resurrect dead actors in this way? Well, in spite of the defense that their estates sign off on these things, I absolutely veer towards it being pretty awful. This digital necromancy is really weird, basically never looks good, and only serves to undermine the personality and charm these actors brought to these roles. I know some people are fine with it, but personally, I don't think it's ever worth it. I would have rather Tarkin been played in the shadows in Rogue One, or not at all. I would have rather any other android than the late great Ian Holm back in the Alien universe. I also have to say, are these cameos particularly sought after? Was the ethical dilemma even worth it? These are really old versions of these heroes. Fans have gone nuts for Jackman and Maguire over at Marvel because they were hugely relevant in the last 2 decades, but going back to heroes 70 years plus, long since past, isn't really a thrill for your target audience. Even CGI Christopher Reeve and Michael Keaton, as iconic as they were and still are, aren't exactly drawing in huge crowds outside of fans like myself. It's also creatively misguided, it's insane. We then get the longest moments out of all of these cameos, specifically for Nick Cage Superman, the Superman of the cancelled Superman Lives by Tim Burton and writer Kevin Smith.
He's got the eyes of a violent caged animal, of a fucking killer. And I was like, dude, it's Superman.
This takes the cake as the stupidest cameo for several reasons. So it's not necessarily immoral because you didn't resurrect the face of a dead actor. With this one, they actually apparently got Nick Cage in to film the cameo, and then plastered CGI all over it, so it looks like he was never there. What the hey, dude? What was the thinking here? This moment is so ugly, and there's so much time devoted to it. You get to see him webbed up by the giant spider, fight off its babies, and laser the freaking thing. For what? So you can enjoy what Tim Burton's Superman movie might have looked like?
2, I don't want to see him fly. And 3, he's got to fight a giant spider in the 3rd act.
It wouldn't have looked anything like this, so that doesn't really count. This whole scene is just the payoff to a famous Kevin Smith rant, essentially. It has little to no bearing in DC movie canon, it's a total what if rendered on screen, but in a way that looks nothing like what would have occurred 20 years ago. What's also insane to me is that you have the Tim Burton Superman in the same movie as the Tim Burton Batman. You got both actors in to play the parts, flesh and blood, and they never personally cross over. Wouldn't it have made more sense for this Superman to just exist in the Burton Batman world? Maybe that would have been fun. I know people would have enjoyed getting some flesh and blood scenes from Nicolas Cage, a tremendous performer as the iconic Man of Steel. But no, 20 years later, this is all you get, and it's only designed to appeal to a hardcore subset of the fan base. And infamous producer John Peters, who wanted Kevin Smith to make Superman fight a giant spider. Well, Mr. Peters, you got your wish eventually.
He used to be Barbra Streisand's hairdresser. And then one day he became a producer, because in Hollywood you just kind of fail upwards.
For all their faults, Marvel nailed this premise far better. Channing Tatum had never actually played Gambit, but he came mighty close, on par or slightly closer to it than Nick Cage came to Superman. They are unmade heroes of the same ilk. In Deadpool and Wolverine, not only did they trick him out in an awesome practical outfit, not only did they devote time to him longer than a mere cameo, not only did they give him funny lines, not only did they give him awesome action, they made us care that we never got that Gambit movie. It was such a successful what if that the character is now going to join the other X-Men in Avengers Doomsday. Imagine if DC had had the foresight that Marvel did when they managed to resurrect Nick Cage Superman here. I told a friend who is into comic books but not necessarily into comic book movies all about the Nick Cage Superman in The Flash. They were aware of the previous John Peters debacle, and he thought I was making this up. And I don't blame him. Describing to someone that the Kevin Smith, John Peters giant spider anecdote turns up in a $300 million comic book movie just sounds like a steaming pile of BS. I'd have thought I was being had too. What's baffling to me is there's a whole host of DC characters you could have used for this very scene. I still think it would have been ham-fisted and silly and a cameo fest, but it would have at least been appropriate to use a cast of living actors to try and achieve the same effect. You have all of the Snyderverse characters, the multiple Superman actors, all the Batmen, you have all the James Gunn spear of Suicide Squadders, the CW people, Linda Carter if you want to go back, she was willing to be in Wonder Woman 1984, I'm sure she would have been up for this. But no, we absolutely had to have a bunch of actors recreated through visual trickery, especially the ones who are dead, but even the ones that are alive. You could have had Henry Cavill here, the dude is right there, seriously, imagine that. Henry Cavill turning up in a legacy hero nostalgia movie. There's a key reason why the Bat-Keaton stuff worked when none of this did in The Flash. Where the Spider-Man worked, where Dafoe's second stint as the Goblin was an all-timer, why we're all collectively shitting our tighty-whities to see Wolverine and the X-Men back in Doomsday. A legacy return, whether it be a supporting actor or a cameo, is nothing without the actual actors. Seeing Tobey Maguire come back after all of this time since I was a kid, looking 2 decades older, that makes you feel it. He's really there. There's been a bunch of off-screen trials and tribulations we've not been privy to. It feels like we're seeing an old friend.
Otto,
Well, it's good to see you, dear boy.
CGI replacements for characters with actors who have long since passed makes you feel nothing because you are implicitly aware that they are not there. The Green Goblin is the highlight of Spider-Man No Way Home for me, and it's all in the performance. Dafoe loved playing the Goblin, and you can tell he was committed. He wanted to get involved in the stunts as much as possible, and bring his unique physicality to the character on screen. One of the most memorable moments is when Spider-Man is wailing on him, and not only does he take the punches, he smiles as if it's nothing. It's so badass and menacing, and is a moment that was never going to happen from any of the Flash cameos because it's a CGI fest. Willem Dafoe's Goblin really did return. We can now say he was an awesome foil to Spider-Man in 2 movies. But can we say Christopher Reeve came back? Can we even say Nick Cage came back? No. Hollow, fruitless, soulless, unethical filmmaking. The Flash has shown us that it is oh so easy to give us one of the most uncanny valley, myopic cameo fests ever. Avengers Doomsday, take notes. If all those actors you put in those chairs aren't being utilised properly, it will all have been for nothing. What do you think? Is this the single worst comic book movie scene of all time? Are you someone out there that actually likes this scene? Do you exist? Do you actually exist? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to hear more from me on all things DC, then I will be releasing a full fat review of James Gunn's Superman shortly after its release on July 11th, so check back here. I'm also working on a big video reviewing the entire DCEU from birth to death. That should be coming at the tail end of July, so look out for that. Or should I say, look up? I guess that doesn't really apply here. A huge thank you to Dr. Chike and Peter Vaughan for being my full fat patrons. Your contribution to keeping the channel running is immeasurable. If you'd like to join the Patreon for exclusive goodies, early releases of main videos, the podcast, video scripts, and a thank you in the credits, then please head on over to patreon.com/fullfatvideos to choose one of the paid tiers.